Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I have learned as I have grown into the person that I am today. And I wanted to make some videos outside today, so I filmed a video over on my Peter Does Stuff channel outside about this tomato right here. And then I wanted to sit outside and read some meditations. It's about 5 o'clock, and I thought this would be a good way for me to get ready for the weekend and kind of relax and get serene for the night ahead. So I want to read from The Language of Letting Go by Melody Beatty first, and then the Daily Book of Quotations. So this is from The Language of Letting Go. Learning to Trust Again, July 22nd. Many of us have trust issues. Some of us tried long and hard to trust untrustworthy people. Over and again, we believed lies and promises. I need my reading glasses. Some of us tried to trust people for the... Over and again, we believed lies and promises never to be kept. Some of us tried to trust people for the impossible. For instance, trusting a practicing alcoholic not to drink again. Some of us trusted our higher power inappropriately. We trusted God to make other people do what we wanted, then felt betrayed when that didn't work out. Some of us were taught that life couldn't be trusted, that we had to control and manipulate our way through. Most of us were taught, inappropriately, that we couldn't trust ourselves. In recovery, we're healing from our trust issues. We're learning to trust again. The first lesson in trust is this: we can learn to trust ourselves. We can be trusted. If others have taught us we cannot trust ourselves, they were lying. Addictions and dysfunctional systems make people lie. We can learn to appropriately trust our higher power, not to make people do what we want them to do, but to help us take care of ourselves, and to bring about the best possible circumstances at the best possible times in our life. We can trust the process of life in recovery. We do not have to control, obsess, or become hypervigilant. We may not always understand where we are going or what's being worked out in us, but we can trust that something good is happening. When we learn to do this, we are ready to learn to trust other people. When we trust our higher power and when we trust ourselves, we will know who to trust and what to trust that person for. Perhaps we always did. We just didn't listen closely enough to ourselves or trust what we heard. Today, I will affirm that I can learn to trust appropriately. I can trust myself, my higher power, and recovery. I can learn to appropriately trust others too. I think it's a really interesting meditation, you know, in talking about trusting people or trusting ourselves and whatnot. I've had huge trust issues in my life. I think part of my trust issues, you know, I always just kind of go with my gut. I think a huge part of my trust issues are that I have had in the past very high expectations for people, or very high expectations for how situations should have turned out, and they didn't turn out the way that I wanted them to, or people fell short of the expectations that I had, or people didn't react or respond the way that I wanted them to. And so then a resentment grew, and a resentment is an unfulfilled expectation. It's when someone or something falls short of the way that you thought it would turn out, right? And then it turns into a grudge or a resentment, which is holding on to bitterness and anger. And, you know, I used to say, you know, things like, I have a really hard time trusting people or whatever. It's always interesting to me when I meet somebody or when I'm talking to somebody and they'll be like, oh, I don't trust people. And they say it as like a badge of honor. You know, they'll be like, yeah, I used to, but like I was too trustworthy. I don't trust people anymore. And it's a really sad comment to me, honestly, because what you're basically saying is, I don't allow new people into my life. Like, I don't allow the even idea that there might be somebody out there that could treat me the way that I deserve to be treated, and teach me in the process that I am good enough and worthy of good things and having good people in my life. And so, you know, I think it's the idea of, you know, getting off the horse and getting back up again, you know, falling off the horse and getting back up again. It's like at some point you have, for you, not for anybody else. You know, it's like, I think when we say that, it's like, oh, like, I don't trust people, you know, and really when people say that to you, it should also be a sign that they don't trust you, is what they're saying, right? Because they've been so hurt in their lives that they do not have the ability to trust people. I understand that comment. If somebody said to me, I wish I could trust people, like if they say to me, Oh, I don't trust people. No, I used to, but I don't anymore. Like, that's kind of a badge of honor, like, you know, like, keep your distance, like, I don't get close to people. But if somebody said, that's one statement, but if somebody said to me, I've been so hurt in my life by people in relationships, by coworkers, by family members, by friends, I've been so hurt that it is really difficult for me to trust people today. I wish I could. I wish I could get to the point where I could, you know, because I think awareness is the first part. If you can be aware of something, then you can start working on the afterwards. And the work is ours to do. The work on not being able to trust people is all our work. It's nobody else's, you know? I think it's easy to blame other people for why we don't trust others, but the work to trusting people is ours to do, you know? Sure, we can go back and if that never happened, we might not feel the way that we do, but the reality is that's not going to happen, you know? I mean, I've lived 50 years on this earth, and me wishing things hadn't happened in the past hasn't changed that they did. That's just the reality. And I've spent and wasted a lot of time wishing and hoping and going over and scripting conversations in my head, putting me in the past and if that situation hadn't happened. And it's absolutely pointless, you know? What I have learned is this. If I come into contact with people that give me red flags to not trust them, I can set boundaries and limits, you know? I can allow myself to be civil to them if they're like part of a friend group or, you know, work environment or something like that, but I don't have to be their best friend. And I don't have to put myself in a situation where I'm going to get hurt again. And the reality is, I'm probably going to get hurt again sometime. I'm probably going to trust somebody and they're going to burn me again. And knowing that allows me to realize I also have the control to exit at any point that I want and say, hey, listen, I trusted you. I'm not doing that anymore, okay? Peace and love. I wish you the best, but I think it's time for us to part ways. But that doesn't mean that the next person that enters my life isn't going to be the greatest friend I've ever had and be, you know, just, as I'm saying this, I'm thinking, you know, at the time that I met my best friend, I was pretty burnt out on people in recovery. You know, I was going to a lot of meetings. Nobody was coming up and talking to me. I felt very isolated. I didn't really know a lot of people in recovery, right? In fact, I would go to this one meeting. This was the only meeting that I went to where there were several young people. And they would all stand in a circle after the meeting and smoke, and I would stand like 10 feet away, you know, and they would be talking about like going to Steak and Shake or, you know, whatever, Denny's to have like breakfast or a cheeseburger. And I can remember, and they never invited me. And I can remember saying to my sponsor at the time, like, I can't believe they never invite me. And his response to that was, do you ever introduce yourself to them? And they, you know, because they never introduce themselves either. And his response to me was, do you ever go and introduce yourself to them and ask if you can go along? Do you ever say that, like, hey, you'd like to do something after? And I was like, no. And that's where we feel that other people are responsible for our lives in ways that they aren't, you know? The people that I know, difficult or easy, the people that I know that have the most enjoyable lives are the ones that are writing their own destiny, that are the ones that are calling up people to do things and having, you know, activities to do. They're the ones that are having lots of friends to hang out with. This is a pretty active night in my neighborhood tonight. They're the ones that are they're the ones that are like planning things to do. You know, they're the ones that are doing charity work, you know, like my neighbor across the street. I was talking about that in my past video. You know, they're the ones that are involved in book clubs and, you know, all these kinds of things. They're active, they're involved, you know. Sure, they probably get hurt, and they probably have people that they can't trust as well. They put one foot in front of the other, you know, and they continue to go forward with their lives and allow themselves to meet new people, you know. And at the time that this happened to me was when I, you know, started going into Tanya's, you know, kennel. And, you know, she said, like, stop by and, you know, hang out sometime. I was like so scared of that because I didn't really trust people at that time. I didn't know her. I didn't know what to think. I didn't know whatever. But had I never followed through, I mean, she's been my friend for 25 years. She's been my best friend for 25 years, you know? And I would have missed out on an opportunity that I never had expected. If you had told me a day before, this person that you met or that you meet is going to be your best friend for the next 25 years, I would never have believed you. I honest to God, I would never have believed you. First of all, I didn't think that I had the capability to have a best friend for 25 years. Number two, I didn't think there was anybody out there that I was willing to get that close to, because I was terrified, see? And I was keeping myself from being happy, joyous, and free. Don't keep yourself from being happy, joyous, and free, you know? It's okay to set healthy limits and boundaries and say, I'm not going to be talked to this way, I'm not going to be treated this way. If you throw up red flags in my face, then you know what? I am going to distance myself from you. And you can say that to people. You can say, hey, like, you know what? I got to distance myself from you because I'm seeing some stuff come up that is hurtful to me. And some people will change, and some people will say, God, I didn't mean to do that to you. I'm sorry. And other people will be like, well, then get over it. Those are the people you get out of your life. Those are the people that you're like, okay, I'm done, right? But just because one person is untrustworthy, and I think this is the other thing too, that I've realized in my life, is that those people that are the most untrusting, those people that have been screwed over the most, are the ones that retaliate and hurt others by doing the most untrustworthy things. It's like hurt people hurt people. And so, you know, I think that the people out there that were hurt by the most are the ones that have a lot of pain inside as well, which is why we all have to do our own work, you know? So I'm just going to leave it at that one meditation tonight and not read the Linda Picone book. I hope that you guys are having a magically amazing Friday evening. I love you, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.